Now we got some questions from students, so Josh.
Now, do you believe like this public-private relationship? Because I remember reading articles on that. Do you believe that they're really aiming to benefit the public sector as well as the private sector? Because I feel that with building these new 100 apartments, it's really not going to go towards anybody but students or yuppies or hipsters or whatever who are.
Actually, and if I can just say something about those 100, they're mixed income.
So we're gonna get people with I guess you could say like Section 8 benefits like that as well as market value.
Yes, it's going to be mixed income, theoretically mixed race. I mean, you can't force people to, but I mean, the idea is if you deal with class, right, and you allow people in of different classes, that should also bring some sort of integration as opposed to segregation.
This becomes interesting because with the grant that was granted in the southern tier of New York, you have $500 million going in infrastructure, which is given by the state, and that is not all just here's free money. It really has an incentive of actually that money being able to be contributed back into the state itself. So I feel like the money that will be generated through the university and all the pull that the university is going to have through the School of Privacy is already seen by this development, because you have private sector coming in completely unrelated to the university, but still very much closely related. So because you have it adjacent to the new property, to the new school that's opening up, a lot of it's going to be targeted towards students coming in, and especially regarding the restaurants and new shops that will opening up in the area. So right now you see the effect that this grant had, not just for the university, but how the university is pretty much just tying it all together with the community around it, especially building in the private sector.
And what people in economic development refer to here is leveraging, right? The state puts in a lot of money, but they're leveraging by saying, hey, we're paying up front for a lot of this work, right? But it's going to cause other people to invest. That's called leveraging.
Yes.
There's a little bit of state money in the IDA, but bigger investment by the private sector in putting up 100+ apartments with a very large restaurant to go with it. And by the way, this is likely to apply to some people who do not want to keep their homes in Broome County as they retire and may want to move into a 1 or a 2 bedroom apartment. And these go up to 3 bedroom apartments. So it's also for families. The idea, as you said, Josh, I think younger people will, maybe it'll be hipsters, but also maybe young families. So if it follows the blueprint, it is meant to be inclusive. We'll see how it works out, but it's meant to be inclusive.
We always have good intentions for some things.
Well, that's why I said we got to watch it. That's why we're monitoring, right?
I was going to also note that it's important to, because the governor of New York State is trying to force redevelopment in upstate New York, very, very hard to combat population loss and high unemployment and loss of jobs up here. There are going to be an increase in public-private corporations investing.
We'll be interviewing again in late March President Stenger, and he'll be announcing some other investments in this commercial area of Johnson City that are already happening as well. And I'm not going to steal his thunder, but we'll learn of those very soon.
Yeah, I think it's a great phenomenon. Because think about if the pharmacy school wasn't being built there would be no attractive tourist development. There would be no redevelopment companies would be even looking at the buildings over there. And now that because of the building of the pharmacy school, clearly it's attracted a lot of people and a lot of redevelopment companies and put it on the radar. And this is going to revitalize the neighborhood. And Johnson City, it has a stereotype of being deprived, a little destitute. But I mean, in 20 years from now, it's going to be a completely different area. So.
Good.
Especially with buses now, with new bus routes that'll probably be going through there, new public bus routes that'll be going there. So it's just going to completely revitalize and change the area. Who knows? Businesses may open up. I mean, it's good for certain, for a more economic aspect. Yeah.
I was just going to note that after examining all of these and anyone who really takes a note of Broome County, if you would kind of take a guess of the most gentrifiable municipality within the 3 triple cities, it would be Johnson City. Mm-hmm. They're the one that is growing the most. There's growth with income, and they're more diverse, and they show a greater potential out of Binghamton, Johnson City, and Endicott.
Not just that, but I will also add on to the fact that there's already been a general shift within the Johnson City itself, a shift that has not fully adapted into Binghamton. So Johnson City used to be a booming center especially in its heart, 40, 50 years ago. But then you have, with the opening of the mall, you have a lot of the shift in the area, a lot of the businesses transferred to that component, and then with the university expanding and accepting more and more students constantly, you see this change, this sort of demographic change in the west side of Binghamton, where you have a lot of students moving into owner apartments, and they just pay rent to a certain landlord that might not be affiliated with the university or might not have one or two properties. For example, just to use my component as an example, we live in a building, in a house that the owner does not even live in the state. It's pretty much solely an investment here, and that is something that we have experienced within the west side of Binghamton itself. Now, with the school of pharmacy opening up, is something that you have to take into account of happening within Johnson City, mostly because people are going to throw in the investment, and then from that point on, they won't expand further on that, which is something that allows for greater potential for multiple buyers to come in and get these low prices initially in order to boost the level up in the next 10, 20 years. You have a lot of changes coming in, especially with buildings and businesses. So when somebody invests, let's say, in a house property or in a certain apartment property currently, and then 20 years from now you have Johnson City becoming a booming center, but yet you still have that development there that they haven't really put much into, you get an offer which will push you out, and then that offer will allow you to build a new property and new property, and I feel like it's sort of a chain event really that will happen from that point on.
I think also that this case study by Luke, what he did here, looking into it, I think it's justifiable now that we look beyond the surrounding areas also, because to the north and south of the pharmacy school is like all abandoned factories for the most part, and that's all developable land. So I think we should start monitoring that too, because that's certainly going to be redevelopable and probably purchased soon in the next year or two.
We see why the president wanted to go to Johnson City first, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, look at the aesthetic value of this as well. Like, it's not only that it's, we're going to take these buildings, but if you think about it, historically, the factory building vibe has always been some kind of subcultural scene. Like, if you watch movies or a lot of, comic books, for example, a lot of apartments tend to look like they're, a factory building. So, I mean, when I talk about, young urban professionals, moving in, it's definitely because this vibe, they're going to be attracted to that kind of aesthetic, really. So I just think it's interesting when you weigh all the social, economic, and all types of aspects put together.
Good. This leads me to two things. One is to thank you for a lot of work in a little bit of time, but to also signal that we got a lot more to do for the remainder of the semester, and a lot of it now is going to be field work. So we'll be getting together, planning field work, specifying what we're going to look at, why, and then again, how does that educate us about what's been there, but also what might be there in the future. And this is where I like President Stinger's vision, which he's going to share with us very soon, about what this might mean for Johnson City and Broome County. So thanks again, and onward and upward.